Hey there, I'm Mike Dickson. This is Simply Your Voice, coming today from Studio 2 using the power of Studio 2 with a special guest. But first, as always, a countdown. In 3, 2, 1. Hey there, we're coming today with the help of my brother Adam.
Hey, everybody.
He's operating the board where I'm using Studio 2, and I have a special guest today. We're going to do 10 questions with my son, Michael Dickson Jr. Michael, welcome to this.
Hey, how we doing?
Oh, good. What spurred all this was one day.
Hey, hold on. Doesn't he have a YouTube page to pimp or anything?
No. Well,
Nothing fancy.
No. We'll give him a chance to plug his Twitter page and Instagram. All right, are they your favorites, or do you have a Snapchat?
I dabble a little bit in everything.
Oh, okay. So, I'm trying to. We're going to try and get this done as fast as possible. I know you have your family today, so like I said, we're doing 10 questions, and we're going to hit you with the first question right now, Mike. How did you obtain the present phone you have, the Xiaomi Mi A2? Here, I even brought the box just to show people. Yeah, there you go. See. So, how did you obtain your phone that we have today? What happened?
Thankfully, I have somebody on the inside, that's able to feed me phones and tech whenever I need it.
Gee,
but
who's that person?
Yeah. My previous phone that I had, for whatever reason, it just midway through using it, just blacked out, and the screen became non-functional. It would still vibrate when I was touching it, but it wouldn't give me any kind of a response other than that.
Okay, and what was the prior phone?
I don't recall offhand. You are more knowledgeable about that than I am.
Okay, folks, it was a Moto G5 Plus S model. It was the larger variant. Larger is in screen size. So I got him what I thought was going to be a Moto's phones for me are always been pretty much dependable, and there's additional stories about Moto I'll dabble in a little bit later, but yeah, so that's how basically the Moto phone crapped out, and you were in a pinch, and I happen to have this phone. I just finished the review. Literally, I just finished the review of this phone, and I said, well, let me give him this phone, because I knew it was a larger screen, a newer phone. And I thought, this would be if this situation, because it's still under warranty. The Moto phone was still under warranty, so it gave him an opportunity to, use it. And if he didn't, if he wanted the other phone back, then we just would have switched. But everything came to be that he basically said, "I want to keep this phone." So in question number 2, your overall impressions of the phone. Now this might also lead in. Well, question 2 is, what's your impressions?
Overall impression, I do enjoy the phone. It is somewhat similar to the other one. I think it's simple, when I just picked it up and rolled with it, what's difficult to really...
I'm sorry, let me interrupt you real quick. Are you consider yourself a phone techie like me?
No, not in any way, shape, or form.
Okay.
I
meant to put that out there too.
To these things, I understand the concept of a phone, apps, and not that I'm not tech, stupid per se, but nowhere near in the same vein of, what you tend to explore, or, more of an aficionado on it than I am.
So your general impressions were positive right away with the phone?
Yeah, for the most part. I mean, it's slim. It's not, heavy. I always like that kind of thing, because I always hate the concept of throwing something in my pocket that feels like it's a brick,
Okay.
Screen wise, size was good. I didn't have anything run sluggish, or, 'cause sometimes things can bog down a little bit, mind you, it's still generally early for me having it overall.
Well, what's early? What do you mean? How long have you had it now?
I don't know. It's only been a couple weeks.
I would say about a month now.
Yeah, well, that's a couple weeks. But But no, I mean, I assume if there was something, logistically on that end that I didn't care for, I think it would have popped out on me by now.
Well, we're going to talk about some of those problems in question number. What question number? Question 5 is we're going to discuss. I think you had some issues that what I want to also cover here. So. So question number 3 is the Xiaomi Mi A2 versus the Moto G5 Plus, the phone that you had. Likes and dislikes between the two. Can you expand on that?
Well, my other one.
I love doing this. I'm putting him on the spot.
No, the other one I think generally was, like I said, wasn't too far off. I did one big distinguishing thing I pointed out. I was very disappointed to see that there was no headphones connection.
We'll be talking about that in a little bit.
That's a big issue. As far as overall, usability, I didn't really see any huge differences. This one seems to be a little bit sharper, maybe just coloring screening to me, and that may just be me. Overall, I think I do favor this one more, minus those few things that you mentioned we're going to get into. But.
Okay. Question number 4 is going to be: have you ever heard of Xiaomi before this phone?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not.
Okay. All right.
Well, but I think the average consumer doesn't really know those kind of things. I think they gravitate towards the big names that they know. You know what I mean? Obviously,
exactly.
Apple, I think a lot of it is either people just associated with either Apple or Android. You know what I mean?
Right.
I don't know that they really necessarily go, oh, it's a Motorola or it's this or that, unless it's something, super fancy that they're trying to market to them at the current moment.
Okay. Good point. Question number 5 is going to be, let's cover the conversation that we did have in the car. And this is where I'm going to probably try and let you do more of the talking, because what you were talking about, I was like, this is gold. I had to have both hands on the wheel, but I almost thought about whipping out my phone and videoing your conversation. So let's talk about a little bit what we were talking about in the car just a week ago. You were pointing out some things with the phone that was a little discouraging for me as a phone guy. The biggest thing was the lack of space that's on this phone. Now, this phone only has 32 gigs of internal storage, no SD cards expansion. That's the other difference between the Moto phone, because the Moto phone had expandable storage using SD card, and Motorola gives you the option to expand to the point where you can move the apps to the SD card. A lot of other ones don't give you that option. Now, take it from there and tell me about what's going on with the phone right now and your issues, and mostly that, except minus the headphone jack. We'll talk about that next.
I think that one of the bigger strengths of the previous phone was having that ability, because it definitely gives you a lot more, let's just say, dependability, of using it to your maximum for a longer period of time without worrying about you're going to run out of space, tomorrow. I do tend to, for lack of a better term, beat the crap out of my phones. I mean, I consistently am streaming. I have tons of apps on my thing, and not like
clarify beat as in you're not like taking a hammer to it, but you mean internals.
But I feel that I utilize it probably maybe more than the average, maybe above average, so there
you do 30 gigs of 30 gigs of data a month. So you really do a lot with it.
My general output, you know what I mean? But as far as like, opening, using, running things, apps, games, and everything on my phone, I mean, I'm on it pretty consistent. If it's not for, personal use or for work, or, you know what I mean? And I think that one of the big factors for me is, I've had it 2 or 3 weeks already, and within the first 2 weeks, I was getting probably 3 to 4 messages telling me, hey, if you'd like to delete some things for some space, that'd probably be a good idea to go about that. And I kind of was like, push back a little bit on it, because I don't really have, as far as my personal opinion, all that much on there. I mean, I have,
It is truth.
Maybe 50 apps or something, maybe a little bit more. And a lot of them aren't really all that large, and like I said, I'm not that tech oriented. I'm not sure how much it maximizes having them on there on a consistent basis and maybe running in the background and such like that. But I mean, I kind of feel like you have to think in terms of the average person nowadays who's trading in phones every 2 minutes and trying to upgrade and get the new fancy thing. They're going to want something it's not going to kick them every week and tell them, oh, you're too full. You know what I mean? You gotta sacrifice something, or you're going to have to dump something. You know what I mean?
Okay, but one other thing that you're pointing out to me is the connectivity issues that you're having with this phone.
Yes.
Care to expand on that? How's that been? And we're talking mostly data, right? You never had a phone connectivity issue, have you?
I've never had my phone, I guess, connected while it really happened. But then again, if I did, my phone's next to my head and I'm not looking at it, so it's kind of hard to always notice. The one big issue, like I said, the previous phone that I had, I basically, thanks to T-Mobile, I always have service basically everywhere that I go, but I've never really had an issue, no matter, whether I'm at work, out on a job, at
And on
home.
this phone, you never had an issue phone call wise.
Right. This one, I've never had an issue with a phone. It does occasionally act sluggish, sending text messages and such if my service is different. But the big issue is, I'll go from, say, 4G down the road to it drops to 3G to it drops to 0 to now I have an X or an E to right to 4G. It's inconsistent. And I don't know what the use is, the reason for that is. It has to be a phone thing because I don't want to put that on the service because those same areas I frequent every day with the previous couple phones that I've had, and I haven't had that same inconsistency.
Right. Okay. All right. Well, I just want to explain to you and our people out there that this Xiaomi phone is what is known as a global phone. It just does not have all the bands that a typical phone that's made here for the U.S. or the Northern American market. There are different versions of phones out there. There's Chinese versions, there's international versions, there's even then they got global, and then you got the regional ones like in what we deal with here in North America. So if you purchase a phone, you go online and you look, you want to get the global one. Well, that's going to get the majority of the bands. Now, my experience with that phone was I switched carriers from T-Mobile to AT&T that's another conversation, but I switched. And AT&T's bands are different, and I noticed call quality was a little bit less, and also especially the connectivity issues. So I found that's the problem getting these phones. And as I mentioned in my prior video I did on the review, not everybody who's going to go get this phone. You never heard of Xiaomi, and you probably wouldn't even know the first place to go look for a Xiaomi phone, right? You wouldn't know. So
have the slightest.
Right. So I gotta say that this is just a unique situation that you've been brought upon. You're given a Xiaomi phone. What's the conversation like when you share it? What's the conversation that you have when you've had the Moto phone versus this phone? Do you get like, what is that? Did you get any of that kind of, from your coworkers and friends?
I mean, we always kind of, it's more in passing talks of always going, oh, what kind of phone is that or something. But yeah,
you didn't even know how to pronounce it, did you?
No. I don't even remember what I was pronouncing or what I was saying, but I told them that, and they were like, okay, what is that? You know what I mean? But I think a lot of that also comes down to, the consumer end of it too. You know what I mean? You're constantly being marketed. Here's the new iPhone. Here's the new Note. Here's the new this. You know what I mean? Right. You're not really aware that there's other options available. You know what I mean? And whether that's a company, issue as far as marketing, or whether that's just the consumer is just generally being not as, intuitive enough to find out, I'm not sure, but yeah, I mean, you basically think that you're stuck more or less, I think, between these certain big brands, and that's kind of what you just pick from. You just upgrade every single time,
right.
you know?
Right. So, Mike, the one thing that really, really, I was laughing my ass off when you hit me up with this text message right there. Your comment, no headphone jack with a big question mark. I was dying. Now this proves to me that you're not a phone techie, because you just didn't know that this was a thing, did you?
No, I mean, you know, I know that there are, or I guess I'd say more. I've heard rumblings in the wind of people complaining about things changing over time, and you know, I guess this phone's leaving this out now, and this phone's now leaving that out. But it wasn't something that initially came to mind, because I kind of that's one of those like original staple points.
Tell everybody what prompted you to go and realize that it wasn't there. What were you about to do?
I was about to go mow the lawn out front of work, which is like a 2.5 hour process. I said, "Oh, I'll throw my music on, I'll just cruise," and that did not happen. So, you know, disappointment. But you know, I just was very kind of taken aback by it. I guess, you know, maybe that's excessive reaction, you know, or maybe I'm behind on the times. But it just seemed like that's such a simplistic thing to have on the phone. Why dump it? You know what I mean? I don't see why that would.
There's no gain on a lot of these phones by doing that. What's up?
I got something to throw in.
By all means, Adam.
If you don't mind. They did it because there's a giant profit margin we had on dongles. Dongles are the way of the future. That's how Apple got to be $1 trillion company.
Yes.
By selling 87 different dongles for all their things.
Right.
So there is a way around it where you can have regular old wired headphones, but it's going to cost you an extra $4 or $5 on something that costs them 8 cents to make. So they get a nice chunk of change.
Yeah. Right, and I think that was something that we were talking about. You know, I mean, the only obvious, you know, reason would be obviously they move you into a Bluetooth era where everything is Bluetooth, and you know, your speakers, your car, your headphones, your wireless this, and you know, I think that's very presumptuous and, you know, maybe more arrogant, but to assume that everybody can necessarily afford that or even cares enough or honestly is even knowledgeable enough to know any of this stuff. I mean, you know, everyone knows, like, say, the symbol for Bluetooth. They walk into a store, they see it, but it doesn't necessarily know they know how to utilize it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and like Apple was one of the first ones to take the plug out, and it makes sense for Apple because they're a higher end item, and more other people are going to be able to afford the Bluetooth stuff that they have. A phone that's like this, I don't see why they would have.
And exactly, and you happen to take a look. What is that? Look at that phone. What is that to you, Adam?
It looks like a Pixel.
No.
With the,
okay.
Well, I mean, to me, just
the camera. See, the phone represents a lot of Xiaomi's great. The Chinese manufacturers are great for stealing designs from other companies.
But what is this supposed to look like?
iPhone 10.
Oh, okay.
And that,
so they wanted to just make it look like
because of the camera, way the camera is.
So you would get confused.
I'm showing the camera design is.
I'm not that big a techie to know things. I
actually had somebody ask me at work when I had that phone. You know, oh, is that a new iPhone? Just because of where the position of the camera was. Then they were taken back to seeing where the fingerprint sensor was. So that just didn't add up to them. But you know, going back to the headphone jack, that was just a pure. We're going to copy it because they did it kind of thing. That's how the all this. I think a lot of this notch design is also stemming from it. So you were really bent over this, Mike, weren't you?
Yeah, I mean, it seems like something so minute, but for me, you know, a lot of what I do is I'm very musically balanced, you know. So a lot of my go-to, albeit like my Uber rides in the mornings, you know, or when I'm at work or just in the car, if somebody has an old school radio with the jack. I mean, that's something that I'm consistently using. You know, I probably use that feature on my phone probably more than anything else, barring apps themselves.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Did you ever consider getting Bluetooth headphones? Or you prefer wired yourself?
Then you're putting me in a position where I'm forced to now. You know what I mean? And that's something that, you know, obviously they do it for, marketing and business and whatnot, but I feel that that's a crappy position to put, me as a buyer into it. Is if I spend outright to buy this phone, let's say hundreds of dollars. Now I get it, and then I go, okay, well now I got to spend another $100 on, good headphones or whatever. And they may be more affordable. I'm just spitballing numbers.
Right.
I mean, that's just an added, excessive thing that I have to spend on, and that's assuming I don't have to buy anything else. You know what I mean? To me, it just seems frustrating to have something that's simple, really, because I can't imagine that it messes them up. It's literally just that they don't feel like it because they know they can make money on it.
Gotcha.
I mean, that's frustrating for at least for me.
And this is the whole drive of this video too, is that to get your perspective on stuff like this, because your comments are just like, wow, us techies, us phone snobs, as some of us like to call us, they just spin a big web of drama over this stuff. But coming in from you, to hear this from you is really awesome. So we're going to press on to question number 6. Outside of phone calls and texts, what are let's say 3 items you need from a smartphone? What's the 3 things that you look, if you had to go out and buy one? Yeah, what are the 3 things that kind of like go, okay, these are the features I need? I guess one's a headphone jack.
Yeah. I mean, well, see, and this is the thing is now going forward, if it's a position where I'm going to go into a different phone, now that's something that I'm going to now be looking for because I've lost it on this. You know what I mean? But that doesn't necessarily make it a deal breaker. But now I know that investment towards my next whatever is going to come with a secondary investment of a headphones or Bluetooth, radio.
Would that be one of the 3 things you're looking for? Like I said, like your top 3.
I mean, if I were to make a 5, that would be in a 5. Like I said, not necessarily a deal breaker, but yeah, I mean, I would like to see that. I think bigger thing for me is if I had to substitute that, sound is very big for me.
Okay.
I find a lot of times is the phone could be super sleek and nice, but I'm very OCD when it comes to certain things like sound quality. So I tend not to turn my, if I'm playing music on my phone, I don't turn it all the way up because I start to hear the little scratchiness in the speaker, but the sleeker the phone, the nicer the phone, it seems to be, they shrink these, or they put them in such an oddball place, these speakers, that either you got to flip your phone upside down, you got to, have it face it this way or that way. Otherwise it sounds like it's, lower or not as good, so that to me is a bigger issue. I mean, because at least if I don't have my headphones, my fallback's going to be I'm still going to play music on it. So if you can't at least give me a speaker that I can deal with that doesn't feel like it's blow out,
okay,
so that's one thing. I like obviously having, a clear picture. When I do a lot of streaming, as I don't want things to, and a lot of it has to do with your service too. I know, pixelate, slow, sluggish, anything like that. Doesn't necessarily have to be like that top quality, HD, fantastic stuff. But, that's about it, really. I mean, I'm super simple when it comes down to it. I guess for lack of a better phrase, I want what I want. I just want it to work right, without being overly difficult, or having to jump through extra hoops to get to that end result.
In this conversation just now, just that question alone, I never would think that the audio portion is that important to you. I mean, I know you love music, but I didn't realize that.
Well, yeah, think about it like this. If I'm watching something, YouTube, if I'm watching, streaming really anything aside from just my music, I mean, the audio is still important there regardless, I mean, that to me, yeah. I think a little fluidity too, if I've noticed some phones, like when I play with in the stores, like when you go to swipe, you move screens to the left or the right, they have that little delay, you know what I mean? I like to have it, sharp, you know what I mean?
Okay.
If I move something, I want it to move, you know what I mean?
No, I got you.
Maybe it sounds, that's why
that was the point of the question, because that's what you were looking for. That's cool. Question number 8. Here's a big one. Would you ever consider an iPhone?
Absolutely not.
Wow. There, Adam, that was shot down. There wasn't even a pause.
But why not? Is the follow-up question.
There we go.
I have played with several other ones. I feel like it oversimplifies it, and maybe that sounds stupid, but I've always kind of equated it as a phone for dummies. You know, it's and maybe I think what it comes down to is it's everyone's it's everyone's comfortability and what they prefer. You know, you're always going to have one side or the other, but I always felt that Android more suited my, you know, I guess what I did day to day. I felt it was customizable. I was able to maneuver a little bit more. I didn't feel like I was kind of boxed in. I mean, you know, if I wanted big shiny buttons to tell me, you know, what to see and, you know, so I don't miss it, then, you know, I would customize my screen accordingly, you know.
Okay. All right.
Plus, you know, at the end of the day, you know, Apple doesn't need my money. They'll be perfectly fine without it. You know?
Well, that's going in. Then also, then the next question is: would you ever spend $900 to $1,000 on a phone?
Well, that's kind of a broad question. I mean, do I have $900 or $1,000 to throw around like that? Personally, no.
Well, no, because you would go to a carrier and just finance it. So the end cost is going to be $900 to $1,000 when it's done paid for in 2 years. Would you, you know, not having the connection that you have, would you go and do that, or it's
purpose? Then yeah. But I know that there's the little nuances with contracts and financing phones, or you're basically leasing them now. Thankfully, you know, I haven't really had to deal with all of that stuff, so I'm not knowledgeable enough to say that it would be more beneficial for me to just go drop $1,000 and buy it outright, or to not, you know what I mean, or you know, or to finance it, you know what I mean. But I don't know if that would suit the purpose better. But if it came with less strings attached, or in the long run I didn't have to deal so much with reliance on my carrier, then yeah, I mean, I would drop the money, because I mean, I would think that essentially once you buy the phone, you start using it, its value is already decreased, I would think, just like everything else.
Yeah, just like a car.
So whatever you end up spending on it, you're not going to eventually get that back anyway, you know. So it would make more sense to call it yours. If you decide down the road you want to get rid of it, at least you could try to recoup some of your expense. You
know? Question number 10, and we're going to wrap it up here. Let's see, with that, going to be your let's talk about the next phone that you're going to get. The only reason I'm saying that is because I'm very concerned that as a phone snob and as your father, that you came to me and showed me those issues with that. You never had to come to me with a particular problem with you know, there were a few nuances with the Moto phone, and I quickly figured out what it was. Like we talked about where it grayed out on you when you rebooted the phone. Remember you said that before?
Yeah, I mean, I had little things like that. I was just, the big thing for me was that little, you know, whatever the heck happened to it at the end there. That was was just totally random for me to be, you know, mid text message and then the screen just black out, you know.
No, yeah, right. But I'm talking about the
vibrate.
Right. But the thing is, you shouldn't be. I thought I could give you this phone and reliably be able to do the things that you're doing, but not having a connectivity like you should, and also the memory is what it was very concerning for me. Being able to, you know, put the stuff on the phone that you want. You don't have a ridiculous amount of apps. You don't. I looked at. Let me say this to the camera. I looked at the apps that he has. They're not, you know, hogging. You know, about the biggest one is PUBG he has on there, as far as taking up memory. So and I've mentioned, I know my friend Will probably will see this. That I always said about when I got you a phone, I was always concerned. Now these phones today, the better phones are glass back. They're glass sandwich phones. And in the type of environment of work that we, you know, you and I do, especially you, I'm always concerned about breakage. You know what I mean? One, oops.
Yeah, I should mention that in that list that you were saying.
Yeah,
or
you know,
the durability.
Yeah, okay. So they gotten away from metal phones. I think you're possessing potentially the last metal back phone for 2018, and here we are 2019, and there's not one damn phone that I can think of that's metal. Okay, I take that back. The new Pixel 3a that came out has plastic. It's a plastic back phone, but I say but because there's some other internal things that go on. It probably would be a great phone for you, and it's priced right. It's like $400 versus the regular Pixel phone, which is about $800 or $900. But I'm always was concerned, and I like to try and see about getting you a phone that has the horsepower and the storage in it. It's just I'm just concerned about getting. Then you bulk up the phone because you said that phone there. You know what I mean? You get a big thick case. Look. Remember the Moto phone, the Moto X that you had with that OtterBox case? Wasn't that? I mean,
it was bulkier.
It was bulkier, but it protected, what out of it, right? You know what I mean?
Right.
So,
and I mean, I think to some extent you're going to sacrifice one or the other, no matter what. I mean, I don't think you can get something that's sleek, smart, durable, runs like a champ and can hold a metric ton. You know what I mean?
Right.
I don't know. I think ultimately they give you tons of options, and you just try to have to find one that's closest to what you want.
Right. I mean, you gave me some insight though too in this conversation with you pertaining to your audio portion. There's another phone that came to mind, but it's glass back. So I'm still hesitant. I just, I want to get you a phone that's going to be durable. You know what I mean? But on the other hand, this phone has the power to run, and it gives you good audio. So I'm referring to the LG G7.
Yes, that.
Oh, you got that now. Now here goes a phone that's got great audio.
Yeah, the G7 has fantastic audio for loudness without getting that scratchy like you were talking about. I know what you mean with that audio, and I don't like that either. But sometimes you just got to deal with what you got. But the G7 definitely, they re-engineered it inside to make it more hollow so the sound can reverberate through it a little bit better. And it's definitely noticeable. And it's also it's got a headphone jack, and it's got good DAC.
It's got a quad DAC. It's got basically you can tune your music.
Yeah, you put the headphones on and you do, and it's impressive. Better than any phone I've heard before.
There we go. So, Mike, Adam, any questions? Anything you want to just? We're going to wrap it up here. Got any last minute things?
Not that I can think of.
Okay.
I'm sure I'll think of something as soon as we're done.
Nice. I got nothing.
Well, here, plug yourself, Mike. When this video gets released, which by the way, it's not getting released today. Today is June. I'm going to bookend this against the drop when the video drops for the Xiaomi phone. So plug the socials that you're on. Give everybody your handle.
I'm on a little bit of everything, but it may not always be exciting for everyone. But my Twitter's sitting at Mike D85.
Okay.
And Soil Worker 85. You can find me on Instagram.
Cool. Very cool. I'll be, when it comes time, I'll make sure I'll get this out and put that in the show notes down below. Thank you, Michael, very much. Adam,
yes,
thank you so much for use of Studio 2.
You're welcome.
That is great.
Your bill will be right outside the door.
I understand that. So again, I'm Mike Dickson, Simply Your Device. If you like today's video, give it a thumbs up. If you don't like today's video, don't give it a thumbs down. Tell us why in the comments down below. And as always, start the conversation. I'll see you guys in the next video. As always, we will have the countdown in 3, 2, 1. Pause.
What the hell was that you were doing with your fingers? You were just throwing up random fingers. Somehow at one point you sprouted 7 fingers on one hand.
I'll stop. I'll